video has recently surfaced of a Tesla Model S slowing to a stop on San Francisco Bay Bridge, which leads to the drivers behind the Model S running into it, causing a traffic accident. Now, the publication that received this video has made a full news article about the incident, and in the article, they say the driver told police they were using Tesla's new full self-driving software, which led to the author tweeting, "I obtained surveillance footage of the self-driving Tesla that abruptly stopped on the Bay Bridge, resulting in an 8-vehicle crash that injured 9 people, including a 2-year-old child, just hours after Musk announced the self-driving feature." So in this video, we're gonna go over that video footage. We're gonna talk about the difference between Autopilot, full self-driving, and full self-driving beta. And we're gonna talk about why this is not a self-driving Tesla, why it's not the vehicle's fault, although Autopilot or full self-driving could have been enabled at the time. And just like this author, take a guess as to what actually happened here, because as of now, the only data we have is the owner of the vehicle telling police that they were using the full self-driving software, and there is no actual evidence of what mode the car was in at the time of the accident. So let's just get this out of the way right off the bat. Tesla's Autopilot or full self-driving beta systems are level 2, which means they're driver assist. The driver is always responsible, so no, the car didn't cause the accident. The responsible human in the driver's seat caused the accident, but we are gonna talk about these different systems, and we're gonna talk about if what we saw in the video could have happened while the car was on Autopilot or full self-driving. Also, you don't even know if full self-driving was enabled or in use. There's no way to know, and they're making these claims as if they have it as fact that it was in use at the time, when in reality, nobody knows for sure. Tesla does have that data. I am convinced it will be released eventually. So I have been driving a Tesla for just about 4 years now, and that entire time I've been using the Autopilot and full self-driving software, and I've been using full self-driving beta for over 2 years at this point. And the first thing I want to say really quick to keep everything in line is tell you the difference between Autopilot, full self-driving, and full self-driving beta, because there are some nuances there. Now, this won't be 100% of the details, but this is gonna be what's important for this video and this specific accident. So Autopilot is just lane keep and speed keep. So if you turn Autopilot on, it comes free with every Tesla ordered new today. Then your car can stay in the lane and it can keep the speed. If a car in front of you stops, it can stop and then resume driving. That's about it. It can't really do much else. Side note about Autopilot, when this legacy Model S came out, Autopilot was actually a paid feature. So it is technically possible to have a Tesla that does not have Autopilot on it, although if you buy a Tesla today, it's gonna come with that for free. Then you have enhanced Autopilot and full self-driving. It's 2 separate packages that cost different amounts of money, but they include pretty similar things, and the main thing that they include is called Navigate on Autopilot. This allows the vehicle to do pretty much everything on the highway. You get on the highway, you turn the system on, it can lane keep, it can speed keep, it can also, if you allow it, change lanes on its own as long as you have a hand on the wheel and you confirm the lane change. It can take exits, it can do interchanges and things like that. And then the last up is full self-driving beta. If you have full self-driving, if you've purchased the software or you're subscribing to it paying $200 a month, you can go into your settings in the menu, you can opt in. It's actually not available immediately on the car. You have to go through a little list and agree to some terms. And then once you agree to those, usually within 5 or 10 minutes, this full self-driving beta software will download onto your car and you can enable it. That enables the car to take right turns, left turns, roundabouts, all kinds of different maneuvers to pretty much attempt to get you A to B wherever you're driving with you doing nothing except starting the drive and ending the drive, parking the car, stuff like that. Now, with all of these systems, when you buy a Tesla, they're actually not enabled. You have to go into the settings and you have to enable Autopilot, you have to enable full self-driving, you have to turn on this Navigate on Autopilot feature separately from Autopilot, the one that allows the car to move around on the highway. On top of that, you then have to request full self-driving beta if you've purchased full self-driving, and once you have requested it and been approved, you then again have to go turn it on. So these things aren't on. The car cannot do these things without you going through a lot of submenus and agreeing to pay attention, keep a hand on the wheel, all of those different things. So this is not gonna catch anyone by surprise. Your car is not just gonna start being in Autopilot mode on accident. You had to enable these things when you got the car. Now, the first distinction I wanna make is on the road in this video, full self-driving beta is not active. This is a highway. This is where you would see the old Autopilot stack, the one that's been available for about 4 years. Navigate on Autopilot came out shortly after I got my car 4 years ago, and that's the mode that allows your car to change lanes on the highway, take exits and things like that. So I'm going off of just this one article here for this video. If the author is correct and the driver told police they got the new full self-driving, if that's what they said, it's a little ambiguous. Did they mean they enabled full self-driving beta, or were they just using the normal full self-driving? You really don't know from this statement, and even if they said full self-driving beta, of course they could be lying, but we're gonna assume that they were actually using either autopilot or full self-driving in this video, just to talk about how this could have happened and whose fault it actually is. So we can already eliminate full self-driving beta. That is not part of the equation here. This road does not use full self-driving beta. So that leaves us with full self-driving. Let's say the person had full self-driving, they enabled navigate on autopilot, and that would allow the car to change lanes on its own whenever it felt it needed to change lanes, either to pass slower traffic or to follow its route, or it had an exit coming up, something like that. That can allow the car to change lanes. Now, when you're on navigate on autopilot, the car is very cautious and a little bit slow when it makes any of these maneuvers. Now, I have an example for you here from my car, from my experience using navigate on autopilot. This is what a lane change looks like when you use navigate on autopilot and the car does the lane change all on its own. So for a car to complete a lane change, it has to confirm your hand is on the wheel. It has to feel the weight of your hand on the wheel. Once it knows that's there, it will click the turn signal 6 times before it makes the lane change. It will make the lane change pretty smoothly. It's very good. Of course, it's not perfect, but for the most part, well over 90% of the time, it's gonna do a great job making that lane change. Now, if a vehicle is in your way, if somebody's there, it will not make the lane change. I have had it where the car will begin to, and then it will move itself back, wait till that person's out of the way, and then complete the lane change. If the car begins to make a lane change and you don't like it for some reason, it's very easy to just turn the steering wheel just a little bit and you take over control from the car. The car is no longer making that lane change. You can also turn off autopilot altogether, which is done differently in different Tesla vehicles. But once you turn that off, either with the brake or another method, you're fully in control. The car is not doing anything anymore. It's all very simple to take control no matter what the car is doing at any time. Now, on the other side of that, if the driver initiates a lane change with the turn signal, it will move over in as little as 1 to 2 clicks, so it's a much faster maneuver. Now, the big thing people are talking about relating to this is phantom braking, which is a situation where the Tesla brakes and it doesn't need to. It can mean the Tesla slows down 5 miles per hour, or the Tesla could slow down all the way to a complete stop. Although I've never experienced that, I have heard on forums and on the internet that people have experienced much more aggressive braking. Now, if your car begins to phantom brake, it's very simple. All you need to do is press the accelerator. And if you're not familiar with these systems, you may think, okay, if my car is driving itself, I'm gonna be hovering over the brake pedal in case I need to stop if the car's not gonna stop. And the reality is, any Tesla owner will tell you, we actually keep our foot hovered above the accelerator, because whether for good or bad, it is far more common for the car to slow when it doesn't need to, rather than accelerate when it shouldn't do that. So personally, while I'm driving, my foot is on the accelerator 99% of the time, unless we're about to come to a stop and I just want to make sure the car is actually going to do it. But I know those slowdowns are common enough that if my car begins to slow, I simply tap the accelerator and it will stop trying to slow, and it will continue. If your foot's on the accelerator, the car can't slow. You are in full control at all times. It's kind of going to be the theme of this video. So what is going on in this video and who's at fault? Well, of course, that's for the police and the insurance companies to decide, but this is my video, so here's my opinion about it. As we watch the car driving, it does start to change lanes. Whether this was navigate on autopilot or not is really hard to tell. I'm looking for the 6 blinks of the blinker. I really only see 4 or 5 blinks of the blinker. The quality is not the best, so it's hard to be sure, but 4 or 5 blinks, the car is not gonna be making the maneuver at that time. Then as it's making that lane change, it's also slowing down at the same time. You can see the first car hit, and I don't know if they weren't paying attention or if they were just driving too close for the speeds or what it was, but as most people know, whoever rear ends the other driver, they're automatically at fault. Now, if I slam on my brakes for no reason or I brake check someone and there's video evidence of it, yeah, of course, I would be in trouble. But most of the time, if you rear end someone, you're gonna be at fault. Who knows if they're gonna slam on the brakes at any time for no reason, for an object in the road, for a kid, a person, a deer in the road. Who knows when they're gonna be slamming on their brakes, and that's why people need to keep that far following distance, and that's why if you rear end someone, you're at fault pretty much every time. So at the end of the day, this car could have been using autopilot or full self-driving, navigate on autopilot, but the driver's responsible, and it's incredibly easy for them to take over, to stop any maneuver that the car is doing that they don't want the car to do. And at the same time, watching this video, I don't know, maybe it's the camera angle or the camera width or something like that, but this seemed like an incredibly mild slowdown. This was not a slamming on the brakes. The car kind of came to a stop gradually, at least from what I'm seeing in the video. If you disagree, please let me know down in the comments. The people behind should have been able to stop in time. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this Tesla was okay to stop where it did, but if the people behind it had a good following distance and were paying close attention, like every driver should be, Tesla, BMW, whatever car you have, they should have been able to stop in time for this and not have an 8-car pileup. So now I just want to go through this article with you and read some of it or all of it and kind of go through how some of these things are misleading or maybe unintentionally or intentionally driving you to kind of think in a certain direction, or using wording that's kind of vague to make it sound like something's happening, but really that's not the truth. So let's read it really quick and let me go through this with you. Exclusive, because they're the ones that got this video. Surveillance footage of Tesla crash on San Francisco Bay Bridge hours after Elon Musk announces self-driving feature. So this was back on Thanksgiving Day of 2022. Highway surveillance footage from Thanksgiving Day shows a Tesla Model S vehicle changing lanes and then abruptly braking in the far left lane of the San Francisco Bay Bridge, resulting in an 8-vehicle crash. The crash injured 9 people, including a 2-year-old child, and blocked traffic on the bridge for over an hour. I would not call that abruptly braking, but I guess you wouldn't expect a car to brake there, so maybe. The video and new photographs of the crash, which were obtained by The Intercept via a California Public Records Act request, provides the first direct look at what happened on November 24th, confirming witness accounts. At the time, the driver told police that he had been using Tesla's new full self-driving feature. The report notes, before the Tesla's left signal activated and its brakes activated and it moved into the left lane, slowing to a stop directly in the second vehicle's path of travel. So here's where we get some weirdness in the way this is phrased. In quotes is full self-driving, but outside of the quotes is Tesla's new. So did the driver say new full self-driving feature? If they did, they probably meant beta, although beta would not be active on this road. It moved to the left lane. The lane change, in my opinion, was slow enough where you're not caught off guard by this. If you're paying attention in any regard, you know the car is moving on the road to the left, and you can feel that it's braking. Your whole body moves, forward or backwards as the car is changing its speed. And so you would know these things are happening if you're paying attention, and you could easily take over. Again, it doesn't mean that autopilot or full self-driving weren't active, but what I'm saying is the driver should have easily been able to make this not happen if that's not what they wanted. Just hours before the crash, Tesla CEO Elon Musk had triumphantly announced that Tesla's full self-driving capability was available in North America, congratulating Tesla employees on a major milestone. By the end of last year, Tesla had rolled out the feature to over 285,000 people in North America, according to the company. Again, we're not distinguishing between full self-driving and beta. Now, for your average Joe, I wouldn't expect them to know or care the difference between full self-driving and full self-driving beta, but someone who's writing an entire news article on it hopefully could make that distinction, but we're not seeing it here. NHTSA has said that it is launching an investigation into the accident. Now, here's where I'm fine with that. I want to know what happened. As a Tesla driver, was autopilot or full self-driving active? Did it stop? Did the driver do nothing? I want to know what happened. I use this every day. So if it's going to do something like that, I would like to know. I don't own Tesla. I don't own any Tesla stock. I don't work there. I don't care if it needs to fix something that's not working correctly on the cars. I just want to know the truth. I want to know what actually happened here. And we will either get it from the NHTSA, which will take a long time, or Tesla. They sometimes release that, of course, if it's in their favor, or maybe the police report. But I would think either NHTSA or Tesla is where we're going to get that final piece of information that's really going to tell us exactly what happened. Tesla vehicles using its Autopilot driver assist system, full self-driving mode, has an expanded set of features at the top. Autopilot were involved in 273. So he goes through, again, this thing that people like to quote all the time, 273 crashes from July 2021 to June of 2022. That's not that many crashes. And think about all the thousands and thousands of Teslas on the road. When you compare the stats of crashes in Teslas to crashes in other cars, there's far less. That's a fact. And when you compare the stats of crashes while using Autopilot compared to other Teslas, there's less crashes. Now, there's lots of reasons for that. People will tell you newer cars are involved in less crashes for many reasons. Autopilot is only used on the highway, which is easier and better. Well, if it was more dangerous, it would be in more accidents, no matter where it was being used. Tesla allows you to turn on autopilot anywhere with lane lines, basically, so any road that you want to. People are not only able to use this on the highway where it is safer and there are per mile less accidents. Overall, I don't think these stats are that bad. I think it makes Tesla look pretty good to have all of those cars on the road and only have a small amount of crashes and deaths, especially as more and more cars are being pumped out every day, every week, every quarter. Now, do we want these numbers to be zero? Of course we do, but there are hundreds of thousands of traffic accidents in the US alone every year. and you won't hear about those unless the word Tesla is in the title or it was local to you. In recent months, a surge of reports have emerged in which Tesla drivers complain of sudden phantom braking, causing the vehicle to slam on its brakes at high speeds. More than 100 such complaints were filed with NHTSA in a 3-month period, according to Washington Post. You don't have to, like anyone, whether they own a Tesla or not, can file these complaints. I'm not saying that all 100 of those are just, from random people who hate Tesla or whatever. I'm just saying that anyone can make those reports. At the same time, my experience, I'm probably close to 100,000 miles of driving my Tesla, and I've shown in previous videos well over 90% of my driving is using autopilot or full self-driving. I have not had a slam on the brakes moment. I have had some hard phantom brakes, but my car never drops more than 10 miles per hour, because anytime I feel that braking that I don't want, because I'm sitting there with a hand on the wheel staring forward, I just touch the accelerator. It's as simple as that. The car is not going to continue braking if you touch the accelerator outside of an automatic emergency braking event, but those shouldn't be happening, and pretty much every modern car has that now, and can override the accelerator, but it's only very briefly. If you continue accelerating, it'll push through that as well. The child injured in the crash was 2, suffered an abrasion, according to the incident. In one photograph of the crash, a stroller, okay, he's just whatever, just trying to manipulate your feelings. I mean, that's sad. I wish this accident didn't happen, but I don't feel that's really relevant, at least to this video and the topic of full self-driving. As traditional car manufacturers enter the electric vehicle market, Tesla is increasingly under pressure to differentiate. Okay, I don't know. I don't think any of that's really relevant. Musk talks up full self-driving. We already know that he does that a lot. The term full self-driving has been criticized by other manufacturers and industry groups as misleading and even dangerous. Last year, the autonomous driving technology company Waymo, owned by Google's parent company, announced that it would no longer be using the term. Now, this is something you see a lot. They call it full self-driving, and it's not. It's not full self-driving. I agree. It's not. It can't drive itself. I have to. I'm still responsible, or whoever's in the driver's seat. Personally, I don't really care about the name. I almost feel like Tesla is keeping this name because it's the first thing that people attack. And it's really not substantial. Who cares what it's called? If they named it anything else, it would be the exact same system with a different name. And so it gives people something to attack that's not substantial. I almost feel like that's tactical by Tesla to leave it like that. At the same time, I kind of wish they would change the name just because it's annoying to hear that same thing over and over again. And I just don't think it's worth the time to even, who cares what it's called? Nobody spending, $60,000 plus on a vehicle is going to buy it with the impression that they can then turn it on and go to sleep in the back seat and it drives them to work. And it's just not going to happen. Maybe somebody who's never heard of Tesla initially would be like, whoa, it can drive itself? After 5 minutes of Googling, you'll find articles like this and you're like, oh, never mind, it's not possible. Unfortunately, we see that some automakers use the term, okay, so this is just continuing that same thought. Yep, that's fine. Along the same lines, the premier lobbying group for self-driving cars recently rebranded from the Self-Driving Coalition for Safer Streets to the Autonomous Vehicle Industry Association. So nomenclature, that's fine. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, I don't know how you pronounce that, has also been critical of the emerging driver assist technologies, which he stresses have not replaced the need for an alert human driver. He's totally correct. I keep saying this until I'm blue in the face. Anything on the market today that you can buy is a driver assist technology. There you go, article. It's right there. Not a driver replacement technology. I don't care what it's called. I agree. We need to make sure that we're crystal clear about that, even if companies are not. I agree. Tesla, I don't know. I wish they didn't call it that. I really do. But it doesn't change what it is. The changing the name doesn't change what it is. The language may be evolving. There are still no federal restrictions. There are state restrictions. Tesla has not announced any changes to the program or its branding, but the crash was one of multiple that month. Several days prior to that accident on November 18th in Ohio, a Tesla Model 3 crashed into a stopped Ohio State Highway Patrol SUV, which had its hazard lights flashing. The Tesla is likewise suspected of being in self-driving mode and is also under investigation. Again, investigate. I think that's great. You should. We want data. We want to know what's going on. So I actually like that these things are investigated, as they should be. NHTSA is also investigating a tweet by Musk in which he said full self-driving users would soon be given the option to turn off the reminder notifications for drivers to keep their hands on the steering wheel, users with more than whatever. So as of now, you have to have a hand on the wheel. It'll nag you every 10 to 30 seconds. In the future, supposedly this month, but it'll be late, they're going to remove that, and the internal camera is going to monitor you, which it already does, and if you look down or you look away, the car will nag you and say, hey, you better be looking at the road, and if you don't, it will put the hazard lights on and slow to a stop. So overall, technically, no, it's not full self-driving's fault, it's the human's fault. That's just how it works. Could Autopilot have been activated at this time. It definitely could have been, but it doesn't look like anything that a human sitting in the driver's seat paying attention would have had any trouble navigating. They could have simply moved the steering wheel, even with one hand. They could have simply pressed the accelerator and gotten out of that situation. So overall, I hope this cleared things up for you. If you have any questions, leave those down below. I will definitely be answering those. And you will see me in the next video.